Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Okay. Okay, hey everyone. Can somebody confirm whether I'm audible or not? Hopefully, I should be. Hello. Can somebody confirm in the chat box whether I'm audible or not? Hopefully, I should be. Hello. Can somebody confirm in the chat box whether I'm audible or not? Okay, just let me see if I can fix that. Okay, am I clear? Okay, just let me see if I can fix that. Okay, I guess now the background noise has been fixed, or is this issue still there? Can somebody confirm? Is it still there? But why? Okay. Now am I clearly audible? Okay, since thank you for waiting till 8, and apologies for the inconvenience caused, because even I have been streaming using OBS for the very first time, so it was a bit difficult to align everything. So first of all, thank you for joining the session. And in this session, we will be covering about the aspects which were left in the previous session. Additionally, I'll take up the uh, problem solving in this session as well. So all those who were not there in the previous session, so far we had discussed the introduction to the product management. Then we covered all the prioritization framework in the previous session. In today's session, we will be covering the product design framework and how to approach the product cases. So there are multiple types of product cases available. So in this session, we will be covering only 3, and then we will take up the rest in the upcoming classes. Okay. Okay, now my voice is clear. So okay, we can move forward. So all those who have missed all the previous sessions, so it is not an issue. We'll be share. I guess the session 1 video is already been shared, and the session number second will be shared at the earliest. Moving, and in the today's session we will cover this product design framework, and till the product pricing we will be covering all these aspects. Okay. Okay, so we'll be broadly be covering these two frameworks, the circle and the hearts. So these two frameworks are widely being used in the product management. Secondly, if I had to okay, so firstly, I will be covering the circle framework. So in this framework is used when we are launching a new product, but it can be also be used when we are introducing a new feature in an existing product. Okay, so in this circle framework, so and C stands for the comprehend the situation, I stands for identifying the consumer, and R stands for reporting the customer need, then cut the through prioritization, listing of the solution, evaluating trade-off, and summarizing. So it is just the acronym of these terms are the acronym of circle. So if I had to explain all these things in detail, so firstly we try to understand about the situation by using the 5W and H method, which is what is the product, why there is a need of developing such product or the feature, where we are going to do position that specific feature or the product, when and specifically that associated with the time, why exactly right now, why not 10 years down the line, and who will be the user, and how it will be affecting, and how are we going to implement this. And then we try to understand about the customer, then we report the customer needs. For example, as a user, what exactly the user needs, so we try to present the same ki as a user, or let's say as XYZ, I want this is specific thing so that I can do these specific stuff. So I'll be explaining this with a real case study on which I had worked. Then since we cut through the prioritization, so if you might have watched my previous session, so we'll try to, since we have multiple personas and multiple things to consider, so we try to cut all that through prioritization method. Then we list out the solutions, then we try to evaluate the trade-offs associated with the feature or the product that we are developing, and at the end we just summarize the recommendations. So I'll be explaining this with a real example how this is very relevant, so just ignore this. Just give me a second, I need to change my screen. Okay, can somebody confirm whether the screen is visible or not? I guess it is not. Now am I click? Can somebody? अरे यार हमेशा अच्छी क्यों हो रहा है? Product. No, black screen. Just give me a second. Not this one. Okay, just give me a second, I'm just adding that screen again. This OBS. यार आ क्यों नहीं रहा है? Mm-mm. Oh, okay. We finally got the screen. Now can somebody confirm whether the screen is still no? Okay, just I guess there has been a latency of 10 seconds, so you'll be able to see that screen 10 seconds later. Okay, I guess it is visible. Can somebody confirm? Okay, yes, it is visible. So this is one of the case competition in which I had participated. So I have used the entire circle framework in order to work on the entire tech. So before I jump into the solution or how we have structured everything, I wanted to give you a brief about what exactly the problem statement was so that you get a better understanding. So the problem statement was revolving around we need to develop a feature, not exactly. So the problem statement was like we need to add the carbon emissions on every single product in the e-commerce. So we need to implement the carbon transparency in our application or the website such that it do not creates friction to the customers in their buying behavior. So the very first thing that we did, we tried to understand the same problem using that framework, which is the uh, why there is such a problem. Is my audio synced with whatever I'm speaking? Because I'm on live as well and I'm unable to ensure that. Which is the okay. So we try to understand about the problem by asking the very few questions. Why? What is the product? So I guess I just explained what was the feature about. So why now? So we come up with the solutions like with the problem that why do we actually need to. So it was all due to the regulations and that the infrastructure is ready to accommodate such things. Additionally, the main reason about the why was the regulations. Then I already discovered what was the product was about. Additionally, the how are we going to develop that? So we discuss all that in the upcoming slide. So the very first thing that we did was comprehend the problem, and then we did a user research. So we did a primary research in order to understand about the user personas and what are their pain points. And then the third thing that we did, so we had identified 4 different personas. So every single persona represents a set of users. Then we represented the same in the form of the needs, which was the step third. Ki I need clear comparison and reliable data, so that he can understand about the real value and so on and so forth. So this was the entire thing that we had done. So the very first step that we did was to understand why the problem. Secondly, the user personas, and then represented the same user persona and their pain points and the needs in the form of needs. Then if I had to explain the upcoming thing, so we also since we reported the customer needs, and after that we prioritize things. So I had explained this in the previous session. So we try to prioritize things based on the using the rice model. So we prioritize things and then we prioritize by the feature, like these are the features that we will be developing in these orders using the prioritization model. So we prioritize things next, and after that we try to understand about the next step, which was what was the set of solutions that we'll be providing, and then we try to also understand what could be the trade-offs associated with the entire feature. Additionally, we summarize all the features in the end, that what could be the possible solutions. So I think it was not be very clear from the slides that I've just showcased, but I guess it will be very clear when I explain this with the prototype that we had built. So just give me a second. Okay, I hope the prototype screen is visible. So I'll be relaunching this again just to demonstrate what exactly we had built. So some of the user persona that we had identified in the previous slide was people are not aware about what exactly carbon footprints are in regards to this, and the data was something which was not be very clear to the user. So the very first thing that we did was to understand to make them understand. So we met the very first requirement to let them understand why there is a need. So we whenever user opens the application for the very first time, so a video is being shown to the user, which is about what exactly carbon footprints are. So it was a 26 video that we had so we had attached a video. Then we had given it badges like the blue represents low, yellow neutral, and pink means higher but improving. So it was the fact, since the problem statement was mentioned, we need to ensure that the user is able to use the product, but it do not impact the buying behavior much. So instead of writing it has a very higher carbon footprint, we have explicitly mentioned it, although it is higher, but it is improving as well. So once the user click on OK, got it, so it has all the products listed out. So if you try to understand, go to any product page. So let's say I had opened this page. So let's say it has a low carbon impact. So if the user clicks on that, then only they are able to see that carbon footprint, not explicitly in the very first scene. So we try to develop that in such a way that people will be able to see the carbon footprint at a later stage, not at the very initial phases. Similarly, when we had a product which has a very higher impact, so instead of writing it as it has a really higher impact, we have written it as improving impact, and then also given it a explanation like why how are we trying to improve that. Then a chat to understand about the data, so they can chat with it, and then they can understand about what exactly the carbon footprints are. Okay, so this is something that we built. So we tried to build features in such a way that it do not just meet the requirements, but it do not create friction. So this was the entire thing that we had built using the circle model. So initially we understand about the user. Then secondly, we try to understand about what exactly their needs are. Then we use the RISE framework in order to prioritize things. Then we list out the solutions that I just explained, and then we evaluated the trade-off. Now what exactly the trade-offs were in this case. Now let's say there is a product which has a higher carbon footprint and some product has a lower. Since as a e-commerce website we are there to only list out products. So instead of let's say there is a product with a higher carbon footprint. So that since if we would have explicitly mentioned that it has a very higher impact, then the customer relationship with that specific company and that the e-commerce site would have been negatively impacted. For that reason, we had also written it as improving impact. But even though if we have added this, there can be possibility on the trade-offs of the companies that we will be working with. For instance, the consumer will be preferring the other products over this one, the one with the lower carbon footprint over this. So this was the business trade-off which was associated. Then we just tried to analyze everything, and then we just move forward and summarize the recommendations and move forward. So this is about the circle framework, and now let's move on to the upcoming slides. Okay, can somebody confirm whether my screen is visible or not? The presentation is visible or not? Can somebody confirm whether my presentation is visible? Okay, I guess so it is visible. Okay, so I explained this with an example. Then moving forward to the hard framework. So this framework, I guess this framework was given by the Google. So in this framework we take these four different parameters into consideration when we are designing a product. So we take happiness of the consumer into consideration, how closely they are engaging with our product, to what extent the product has been adopted or the feature has been adopted, and then the retention, and then we try to track the success of the product or the feature that we had developed. So we need to do two things. We need to identify what are the goals, signals, and matrices associated. So goals are is nothing but the objective of the business. So what is their objective? So under happiness, there it can be anything like they wanted to increase the user satisfaction. They want to increase, let's say, by their screen time over that application, and so on and so forth. So indicators is something which the signals are the indicators which helps us understand about the goal. For example, if we are trying to understand what is the let's say the goal of WhatsApp was, I guess I have explained this in the upcoming slide. So for example, let's say WhatsApp come up with a feature to react to message. Now this is their end goal. Now how are we going to understand about whether the user is liking that or not? So we try to understand by looking at the signals, like the ratings on Play Store has been increased, and the matrices is nothing but the same can be matrices means everything that can be recorded in a form of which can be quantified. So we try to use matrices in order to understand to what extent it has been a success or not. Similarly, the engagement with the very same example. So we try to understand, okay, so the users are spending more and more session on that application just because of the fact that they have introduced a new feature, or let's say if there is a story feature, so people are spending more time on that, so user is engaging with that specific product or the feature that they have developed. Similarly, the signals in this case would be the time spent on that specific application has increased. So after introduction of a feature, people spending more and more time on that specific product, then it is again a signal. Then similarly, then we try to again record all these in a form of matrices, like what is the time spent by the user every single day, and then we try to adopt in more users. So basically, let's say if we have a feature and we have introduced a new feature, just because of the new feature, if how many new users are joining, so there can be matrices like what are the new downloads or the number of daily active users. So these are the multiple matrices which can be taken into consideration. And then the retention. So in the competitive world where let's say if you take a look at the WhatsApp only, Aya and other companies also came into the market. But since WhatsApp used to innovate every day in comparison to its competitor, so by introducing new features, they are able to retain their existing user. So in this case, the matrices could be the daily active users, the weekly active users, and monthly active users. And then we have the task success. So in this case, the goal could be the user be able to use a new feature without any issue. So we need to ensure a user journey where everything is aligned and user is not facing any issue. and in this case the signals could be the number of users using the feature has been risen by the week or the month and so forth, or the error rate of the feature drop off rate has been reduced. So these are the different matrices which can be taken into consideration in order to track to what extent the goal or the signals of the feature or the business has been met. Okay, no, so that's it about the two frameworks, the hard framework and the circle framework. So I guess we had explained this pretty well, specifically the circle one. Now we will be moving forward to the problem solving about the product cases. So in product cases, not just in the product cases, in case of any problem solving, so very first thing that we need to understand is the problem, so that we are making sure that you and the interviewer both are on the very same page. So how are we going to do that? So we do that by asking preliminary questions. For example, let's say you are working on a case of Swiggy, and the question is about the daily order per day has been reduced. Now you need to understand about the problem so that you and the interviewer are on the very same page. Now you might thought what could be the possible things which needs to be clarified. So there can be multiple things that you can clarify in this case, like is it just the Swiggy food delivery business, or whether it is their entire business, or is it the Instamart, and so on and so forth. So you can ask clarifying question in order to understand whether the problem is with the entire product or of specific segment of the product. Similarly, you can ask some more questions regarding that same, like is it just Swiggy which is facing the issue, or is it Zomato as well. So you ask a few preliminary questions in order to understand about the problem, and to make sure that you and the interviewer are on the very same page. Second thing that we did is we categorize the problem. So since we have understood the problem, so secondly we try to understand what kind of problem it is, whether it is a product design problem, whether it is the problem is related to the matrices, whether it is related to go to market or the strategy. So we try to categorize the problem accordingly. Then we try to okay, in this there is one more thing. Since we have categorized this, there is one more thing that you can do is you can give it a opening strategy to your interviewer, like this is the problem that I have identified, and in the next few minutes you will be doing these things. So it gives the interviewer clarity about your thought process. So you can do this in the after the second step, which is categorization of the problem. Then third is you apply a framework or design a framework. So depending upon the problem statement that you will be working with, let's say if it is a product design, so I'd like explain a few. Matrices is a very wider topic, so we'll be covering this in very detail, and or whether it is a GTM question or a strategy question, or it is a root cause analysis kind of problem. So we try to analyze, understand that in the second step. Then you give a summary to the opening strategy to the interviewer that this is something that we have identified, and you're going to do these things in the next few minutes. Then we try to apply and design the framework. So there can be possibilities that the frameworks that you will be learning could not be applicable or cannot be implemented. So you try to mix multiple frameworks, or use your own brain to come up with a framework in order to solve that specific problem. Then in this analyzing the problem or the structure, since you have the entire framework, now you try to break down that problem, and then you find out the solution. Now in this step you can still ask some of the questions and keep the interviewer updated that this is your thought process, that is something that you're doing. Additionally, you can do one more thing, which is use the mini summary. So in mini summary, what we do, we give a very very small summary of the things that we have done so far, and what are the next steps that we are going to follow in the next few minutes. So so there are two things that it helps you in two ways. Number one, it keeps the interviewer again engaged. Number two, let's say if you're stuck at a point and you're unable to recall few things, so it mini summaries help you with that. So and at this point of time, at this stage you are mostly using your brain and you're trying to understand about the different solutions or the things, and you also interact with the interviewer in this stage. Okay, now then once you have the entire framework or the discussion with the interview, finally you develop all the recommendations considering the feasibility, impact, or the cost, or you can take other parameters as well, as the case may be, or the objective of the case, and then you develop a plan of action in order to recommend that recommendations. And finally, once you are done with that, you finally communicate your finally everything to the interviewer, that these are your entire findings, and you should be prepared to the follow-up. Additionally, you can do one thing. Now you can not just give the solutions or the recommendations, but you can also say that so far I had explored these things, but there can be more possibilities that this can be done further, and in order to understand about the problem or get some more solutions. So this is something that you can do, and you should be prepared to follow up questions. So you will definitely the interview will definitely come up with some of the follow-up questions in regards to the problem that you will be solving. Okay, so one of the kind of problems that has been asked in interviews is the root cause analysis. So even I guess I gave my interview at a product management for a product role, so they asked me a root cause analysis question. So in this case, you are basically been given a very vague statement, like the order cancellation of Amazon has increased by 10%. So you basically need to understand what exactly the problem is. So we'll be following this only. Let's say the understanding of the problem. So we'll come up with the possible things, like is it happening recently, or is it something which is happening with Flipkart as well, or we try to understand about the geography, whether this has been happening with the India business, or whether it has been happening globally, or which specific geography you are talking about. So we try to understand about the problem statement, and the interviewer can give you certain instruction or the direction, and then you can work further with the case. So there are multiple use cases. So it is one of the use case. Then the card has been dropped. Then the application of the private bank has been increased or decreased, as the case may be. Okay, so first of all, as I guess I had just explained in the previous slide to the certain extent, so we try to understand about the problem. So whether it is India business or the other business, who is the segment which has been affected, so when did it timeline, so we try to understand about that as well. So there can be certain scenarios, like for example, the order cancellation on Amazon has been increased by 10%. So let's say we try to understand, okay, since when it has been happening, okay, it has been happening since the past 10 days. So we try to understand, has Flipkart launched any new offer? So let's say we get a certain answer. Let's say we get a yes. So we come up with the conclusion, like, okay, it is happening because Flipkart has come up with better discounts than Amazon. For that reason, people are cancelling our order and preferring Amazon, the Flipkart. So this can be one of the things that we can get from the discussion itself. And then we try to understand about what exactly the nature of the problem is. So there can be scenarios that the problem is due to internal reasons, and maybe due to the external reason. So we try to understand what exactly the nature of the problem is, or let's say we also try to understand, has there is any change in the product or not, because sometimes there can be change in this just because of the changes in the product. I hope it is clear. Okay, so far, in case you have any doubts, you can write in the chat box. I can take that up. Any doubts? Any doubts? Okay, I guess we can move forward then. Okay, so far we had discussed about this. So we try to understand about the problem. Then we also try to understand whether it is a recurring issue or there can be certain scenarios like let's say there is a company which there is a e-commerce website which is associated with only the a specific segment which has a demand in one specific at one specific time. So there can be scenarios where the issue is recurring, so at every single time in this specific period of time the revenue or the order falls. So if it is a recurring issue, then or we are aware about this, that these are some of the issues which has happened, so it is not an issue. But let's say if it is a new issue, then which we need to definitely deep dive into that problem and understand then what exactly the feature has been impacted. Okay, so similar to the Amazon example only, so which platform has been affected, whether the iOS users cart has been abandoned and the orders has been reduced, or whether it is Android or the web. So we try to understand that, and we ask competitors question in order to understand whether the problem lies with our product only or whether it is an industry related issue. So now it is the framework. So we have basically two different frameworks, the two different aspects, the external factor and the internal. So first of all, we try to understand about the external factor which is associated. So I guess I had explained about the competitive. So we did a competitive analysis, and let's say there can be scenarios where the problem is not with the product, but the problem is due to the activities in the other's business or ours business as well. So but the problem is not with the product but the other activities. So let's say there is any change in the promotional activities in the industry or the competitors. So these are some of the factors which is not in the control of the competitors specifically, which is not in the control of the company or the product manager, but it is affected. Similarly, any influence of any external stakeholder is something which again affects our business, so we need to understand that as well. And in the internal factors, we take technical factors into consideration, like what is the error rate in the application or the product, what is the downtime, what is the latency. Similarly, the cost and the time taken, so we take that all that into consideration. So in the internal factor specifically, we had two things, the user journey and the user behavior. Now in the user journey, what I meant by the user journey, so if I had shown the previous project where the users have to firstly log into the platform, so a video was being shown. So once the user click on cancel, then the user clicks on the product, then there is one more touch point, which was the carbon footprint. So the user was able to see that as well. So let's say in case there is a new addition to the user journey, so and it is a new feature or it may be acting as a barrier, so this could be one of the reasons. So we try to understand whether the problem lies with the user journey or the user behavior, because sometimes what happens when the problem lies with our product only and the user is frustrated by a specific point, so we try to understand at which point of the our application there is a drop. For if I had to explain this with one more example, so let's say the user download Swiggy application, and after logging in, the user is unable to find out the restaurants. For that reason, the user just uninstalled that application and downloaded Zomato. Now this can be one of the, so we tried to find out the point. So the point was the user is unable to explore the restaurant that they wanted. For that reason, they drop off. And then has any part of the layout changed? So similarly, let's say if there is an update in an application, and due to which the user is unable to navigate through the application and facing some sort of issues, so this could be one of the reasons which has impacted the business. And then in the user behavior, we try to understand about any change in the operations, the marketing activities, and the demographic aspects, like the user from a specific geography, their behavior has been affected, or the marketing activities of our business has been changed, or let's say if we have made any sort of changes to our operations, so it can also be act as a barrier. And can be any rise or fall in the matrices. So in this RCA framework, what we try to do, first of all, we try to scope out the entire problem, what is the entire problem, and then we try to understand, use the framework, whether it is due to the external factors or the internal factors. So we investigate all these factors, and then we try to understand where the problem lies, whether the problem lies with the consumer behavior or whether it lies with the specific point of the user journey. So we take these things into consideration when we try to solve RCA cases. So RCA cases are RCA and the favorite product questions are something which has been asked. So in interviews, any doubt so far? In case you have any doubt, I can take that up, or at any point where I was very fast, so I can explain that part once again. Okay, I can take that doubt in case you have any. Okay, I guess we can move forward then. Okay, moving on to the product pricing. So in the product pricing, we work on cases where we need to find out what would be the price at which we can price our product. So in this, we have multiple ways through which we can price our product, but we focus on these three: the competitive, value based, and the cost. So these are something which is widely been asked in consulting and product interviews. So if I had to explain how are we going to price our product, so the very first is the cost plus pricing. So we try to analyze what is the total cost of the product that has been incurred by the company in order to develop that application or the product or the physical product, and then we add our margin that let's say the profit margin that we want is 30%. So in case the cost which has been incurred on development of any specific product is 1 lakh, so and the company's margin is, let's say they are taking 25% as a margin, so they price their product as at 1,25,000. So this is the basic cost plus pricing model. Then we have the competitive based pricing. So we take the pricing of the competitors into consideration. So if I had to explain this, how exactly? So it is not the case that we are just taking the competitors pricing and we are just pricing the product accordingly, but we take other things into consideration as well. For instance, let's say there is a product. Okay, just give me a second. For instance, let's say there are three companies, A, B, C, and based on different parameters, let's say A is our company, we have B, and then we have C. So let's say our product A is better than product B, but it is not as good as product C. And let's say the pricing of the product B is priced at 20 rupees and product C is priced at 30 rupees. So since we are aware that our product is better than product B, but it is not as good as product C, so we will price our product at 25, which is better than product B but less than product C. So it is not just the fact that we are just playing with the pricing and pricing our product to a lower price or according to the competitors, but we are trying to understand the positioning of our product, and then we try to price our product accordingly. Next, we have the penetrating pricing model. So in this model, what we try to do, we try to price our product at a lower price in the introduction phases, so that people buys our product and we can enter into the market. So Netflix launch and the Uber entry discounts could be some of the examples. Okay, next we have the dynamic pricing. So in the case of dynamic pricing, we price the product according to the demand or supply of the product. So if the demand is higher than supply, so it's very economics. If the demand is higher than the supply, then it will be priced at a higher price, and vice versa. So it has been observed in the airlines and the hotel businesses. Then we have the economy based pricing. So in this, what we try to do, we try to price our product with a very minimal marketing, and the product is very priced at a lower end, so that we can target the price sensitive users. So Walmart or the other one could be one of the example. Then we come up with the price discrimination. So in case of this, what we do, we charge different prices for the same product to the different groups. So one of the best example that I can give is the Uber. So if you order an Uber using an iPhone or any other device, so you might have seen the differences in the price. Additionally, similarly, if you take a look at Zepto is again one of the companies which prices the product differently for different types of user. So they try to take that into consideration, multiple matrices, and then they price the product accordingly. So adding on to this, there is if I had to explain about the Zomato. So Zomato prices their every single feature product considering the user point of view and their behavior. So let's say if there is a user who do not want to pay any money over for the delivery, and the max that they can pay is like say 45 or 50. So they try to understand about the user based on their behavior, and then they will never charge an amount which is higher than that. So there are multiple experiments that they used to do with the product in order to understand about the consumer, and then they price their product or the services based on the consumer buying behavior. Okay. Next we have the premium pricing. So premium pricing is something I guess you all are aware of. So we price the product at a very higher prices, which so in this we not just sell the product but status and the goodwill of that specific product or this services. Then next we have the loss leader strategy. Now in case of loss leader strategy, we sell a specific product at a loss so that people do not buy our product, but we make money from our complementary products. For example, if we take a look at the example of Gillette, we have they sell their razor at a lower price, but for replacement of their blades, they need to pay they have set a higher price. So they do not just make money from their razors; they are ready to sell their razor at a loss, but they have placed their blade prices at on a higher end. So it basically helps them in the user acquisition, and then they are able to create a recurring revenue model. Next, we have the bundle or the skimming and the price scheming. So in this, we just price the product initially at a higher end for the early adopters, and then we try to recover the cost, and then we eventually work on the product and reduce or keep the price as the case may be. But in most of the cases it has been reduced. Let's say you might have heard of the early access to a specific product or the company, so they try to sell that the exclusive access to you via their price scheming strategies. Then we have the bundle pricing. So in bundle pricing, if you are buying multiple stuff at once, then the prices will be on a lower end, and then if you're buying the same thing in one by one, so the price will be on a higher end. So they try to increase their average order value with this specific model. So let's say if you are buying something in bulk, then in that case scenario you will be given a better pricing. Then I guess the McDonald or in the P2P businesses, it can be observed. Last, we have the value-based pricing. So in case of value-based pricing, we try to understand what is the consumer willingness to pay for a specific product or services. For example, if I had to give you a very recent example, so the Coldplay tickets or a Taylor Swift concert ticket is like a one-time experience for a specific individual. So they are ready to pay prices on a higher end. So it is just the fact the product, they do not care about what is the worth of the product, but the only things that they care is what is the value addition that they get from that specific product or services, and then they are ready to pay such pricing. So we try to analyze what is the consumer willingness to pay for a specific product or services, and then we eventually sell the product for the same. So that's it for today's session, and in this today's session we discussed about the two models, product design models. We discussed about how to approach cases, then we also discussed about RCA, and then we discussed about the pricing model, all the different pricing models, about the pricing of the product. In case any of you have any doubt, you can just let me know, I can take that up. Any doubts that you might have? Am I audible? Okay. Any doubt that you might have? No doubt. Okay. Thank you for joining today's session. That's it for today. We'll see you in the next class. Thank you.